Welcome to the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast, sponsored by Redwood Living. Thank you for joining us today. I am Staci Hayes, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, host and humanitarian. You can learn more about Voices for Voices on our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channel at Voices for Voices, and also on our website, voicesforvoices.org. Voices for Voices is a 501c3 nonprofit charity organization, or otherwise called an NGO, that survives solely on donations. So if you're able to, please consider heading over to voicesforvoices.org to help us continue our mission and the goal and dream of mine to help 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. Or you can also send a donation to the mailing address of Voices for Voices at 2388 Beckett Circle, Stowe, Ohio, 44224. Or we're also on the Cash App at Voices for Voices, and all donations are 100% tax deductible. Are you or somebody you know looking for a volunteer opportunity? If so, please reach out to us today via email at president@voicesforvoices.org. Now, I founded Voices for Voices to provide a platform for folks to share their stories with others as we work to break the stigma around mental health, accessibility, and disabilities, helping people get the help they need while also helping them transition or prepare for the workforce with our Voices for Voices Career Center, where we connect talent with opportunity for both job seekers and employers alike, from coast to coast and in every industry and job level. And who can forget about merchandise? The Voices for Voices merchandise shop is up and running at voicesforvoices.org/shop, where shipping is always free, and again, all donations are 100% tax deductible. Today, joining us in studio is Staci Hayes. So we have the same last name, but I can promise we're not related that we know of. And so we want to introduce and welcome Staci to the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast.
Hi, Justin.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and sharing your experience with the world.
Thanks for having me. And I want to congratulate you on your recent work abroad.
Oh, thank you.
It was really meaningful and exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, still recovering.
Yeah.
So a lot to get into. Maybe we can start with your, how did you get interested in mental health and social work and wanting to be a clinical counselor? And then we can get into your current work that you're also doing as well with Meta.
Sure. So I think what's kind of interesting is it wasn't a very straightforward path. It was very serendipitous, and kind of counseling found me, opposed to me kind of finding counseling. So despite growing up in Florida around alligators and like literally coming up into your backyard and like laying and sunning themselves in your backyard, I grew up with a very Midwestern kind of culture. So women had to be strong and still kind of sassy, but you needed to learn when to be quiet, and you'd be able to go on chop wood and then still kind of come in and make cinnamon rolls from scratch. So it was kind of this very like juxtaposition of being soft and strong and kind of kind. So I love that part of myself. I still struggle with the quiet part, but I think that's a good thing. But yeah, so first generation college student, which comes with so many unique boundaries and obstacles. So school came relatively easy to me. So in high school, it was very logical that I would be kind of pushed through. I got through with 4 years, no summers. So I had tested out of enough classes. I think I switched my major 3 times, had exactly the right amount of credits to graduate. So then what happened was I was working the same jobs that I was working before I graduated, but I was paying back student loans. So I really lacked that mentorship, that guidance, and I'm going to take some responsibility. I really didn't seek it out because the end goal was getting that education, getting that piece of paper, getting that degree. I wanted so much more. So then, like I said, counseling kind of found me. I was always that person that people liked talking to. I felt very passionately about helping people believe in themselves, telling them that they had what they needed. So that was one thing that I noticed from your podcast, is that you were a humanitarian. And I'm a very humanistic counselor. So fundamentally, I believe that people have what they need. They either need education, or sometimes just encouragement, or sometimes just some support, somebody to believe in them. So counseling really gave me that vessel to do that. So during my master's at Kent State, loved it, had so much fun, took my time. Well, when I say took my time, I mean I still got through 2.5 years, but I took the time to really do that self-evaluation, spend that time working on myself. Growing, that beautiful maturation that happens when you take a second to go, hey, how do I feel about this? How am I thinking about this? How is my viewpoint biased? How is it different than other people see the world? And coming to that stark realization that how I grew up is not how everyone else grew up, and how they see the world and experience the world very differently. So in the experience that I've had as a counselor, I've seen children, adolescents, families, couples. I've worked with forensic populations, college students. I loved it all. So when I was really having a passion of just working with people in general, I wanted to do more. So then I was like, okay, so then I'll be a college professor. So then I went, got my, my doctorate in counselor education and supervision. Had so much fun. And again, had that time to grow and focus on myself and really look at how I was going to change and impact. And then right after I graduated, I ended up getting a job very close to home, which was awesome, as a college professor, teaching counseling, and that was amazing. And then all of a sudden I was like, I've worked so hard to get to this point, and this isn't where I want to be. This isn't where I want to end up. So I think what's unique about my kind of educational journey is that when you work so hard for something and you realize that this is not where you wanted to be, that's okay. It was just like a stepping stone to the next place. So I really just kind of looked around. I've been very fortunate in my life to have these opportunities to take a breath, look around, self-evaluate, and be like, where am I supposed to be and what am I supposed to be doing? And just like approach the world with an open head and an open heart. And it was Thanksgiving last year. We have this amazing family tradition with my 3 children. Macy's Day Parade, and then we do a gingerbread house. So they pretend to put the gingerbread house together, and I pretend to notice that they're not just eating candy for breakfast. So that's our thing. And I really just started seeing all this stuff about NFTs, on the Macy's Day Parade. My husband went and bought like the Oculus goggles. Oh, wow. And then I started hearing cryptocurrency and technology, and that was really an interesting part of kind of what brought me to where I'm at.
Wow. Yeah.
That was a lot, Justin.
Yeah, that is a lot. But on the teaching side, it must just come natural to share your experiences, the knowledge that you have with students. So whether it's in the classroom where you're sharing, or whether it's on Zoom or your office, having those visits, having conversations, it sounds like it's been easier than maybe others, for maybe more of an introvert that's like, okay, I'm not gonna share as much, I'm gonna feel it out before I start sharing. Is there anything you can maybe point to? And maybe it's not like one thing,
right,
but just how you started to feel when you're in those situations, and like, okay, wow, like it's coming natural to me. And
right. So here's the funny part. I'm more introverted than people will ever understand. So when I'm faced with like a difficult situation, I have a tendency to kind of pull in a little bit and be more analytical than kind of reaching out. So that's something that I've really worked on. Okay. One thing that was really important to me as a professor was not only giving practical application, because you learn all this theory and all these beautiful ideas, and I'm like, that's great. You need to learn how to get into the trenches and how to utilize this, and actually help people. But one thing I really rammed home with my students was this issue of self-care and you have to take care of yourself, especially as somebody who is a helping professional. Like anybody who's a caretaker or takes charge of or responsibility of somebody else's well-being, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not taking care of them. And one of the big things that I found about myself is self-care really means personal development and creating these challenges in my life where I'm putting myself in kind of uncomfortable situations and I have to overcome that. So that personal growth is self-care for me. And when I would say this to some of my students, they would really look at me and say, oh, okay, so I need this really expensive skincare, or I need to go buy this, super expensive mountain bike. And although some people have this spiritual connection to nature, shouldn't involve you spending a lot of money. And it's a very personal journey where you need to know yourself well enough to know what makes you feel restored. So that answers your question.
It does. And I've had a little bit changing majors going through school. I changed it a couple of times, and even then, when I landed on a major to where I'm at now, there's still differences. But when you were kind of feeling your way through with the different majors, how did you know that you wanted to, I guess, keep an open eye or an open ear, or like, okay, I'm doing this thing or these things, but my heart's not all in it. Maybe there's something else. Because not only with COVID, but I think there's a lot of students that might say, oh, well, I went to school for this, or I'm going for this. I have all this debt, and now I'm doing something that I don't love, that I want to do something more. So maybe you can give some inspiration on that, of how you found yourself and then how you're able to share that with others. Right.
So I think that's an excellent question. So for me, in the generation that I grew up in, it was pretty much go to college, you're going to make so much more money, just go, and we'll figure it out later. So I think there were so many people that felt like they were all in, and they wanted new cards, but they didn't want to fold because they had so much invested. So that's what you're kind of explaining to me. I would say have the courage to invest in yourself. And unfortunately, college is super expensive for so many people. And I know I had to take out student loans. I ended up getting a graduate assistantship later on. But again, being a first generation college student, how about buying books? How about there's people your family's not equipped for that, they don't understand. So when they have this huge bill come up, like my mom still says I have my doctorate in psychology. And now she laughs and says she likes to say that better, even though that's not what my doctorate's in. But they just have this wait, you do an internship and you work for free? And you're like, yeah, because you're gaining experience. So I would say, and I know I'm going to take a lot of flack for this, is college is not for everybody. And I am a huge proponent of, 2-year degrees, professional training programs. Like if you have an idea, if you don't have an idea, get some experiences. And I think very similar to how you live your life, and the example that you're setting for people is get outside of yourself and help others. And that gives you an amazing understanding of yourself and where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. And allow that to change. Because you're going to grow and your experiences are going to shape you and you're going to view the world differently. So you have to allow yourself to change. The scary part of that is you will give up a certain level of stability in order to embrace that adventure. So that stability piece, you can't have adventure and stability in the same breath. It's not possible. I've tried, trust me. But understanding that you're going to have to let go of who you were to become who you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think, it comes back to do what you like, what makes you feel good, not what your roommate, what your family may think that, wow, even in my case, family is the biggest champion, but also sometimes doesn't quite understand why I would go to Ukraine for 6 days and what I want to do, what I wanted to achieve, and again, that adventure and stability of adventure, like, okay, there's air raid sirens at 1 o'clock in the morning. Is a missile going to hit? Yes, no, hopefully all the safety precautions are taken. And then on a less extreme side of things, of changing majors or going to a training, or
which are all scary.
On their own merits.
I heard a piece of advice that I carried with me when I was young, and it's like, you're not going to ask the janitor how to be a millionaire. So you should always take advice from people who have what you want. So if you don't want what that person has and they're giving you advice, but what's so funny is those people who are readily giving advice, it comes from a place of love.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you have to take it, but understanding that if your family doesn't understand you and you're trying to be different, that probably makes a lot of sense because they're not getting where you're coming from because you're going somewhere they've never been. So
moving a little bit to what you were mentioning last Thanksgiving in the paper that you put together, and you just have a way with words. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you put like all these like very complex words in like a sentence. So like I would write a paragraph and I would have one here and there. But
that's higher ed,
it is,
Justin. It is. Like you have to sound smarter than what you are. I got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you did find and we're finding that AI and the metaverse and all these, like you said, these terms, and your husband comes home with the Oculus goggles, and how did you move forward once those thoughts were coming into your mind? Because there's a big difference between, okay, here's something I want to do, and then testing the water. So how did you get to the part of testing the waters, and maybe what was your process?
Well, I think one of the biggest barriers to so many people is this level of perfectionism, and so I have to do it the right way the first time. So you cannot be afraid to fail. And I hate failing. It is one of my least favorite things in the world, but I learn so much from it. You don't learn anything from succeeding, to be honest. It's just this little, bow on the present. But I think you cannot be afraid of making a misstep and understanding that you're going to learn from it, and then you just keep moving forward. So initially what I just did is my husband's like, well, do this, this, and this, because he's just like the most amazing influence in my life as far as you don't need to know what you're doing, just know what the next step is, and then figure out what the next step is from there. And kind of looking at mental health and wellness and that interaction with technology, I can't really think of two infrastructures that are more at odds, but they have very good similarities in the sense of creativity and complex problems and how we can bring those together. So really looking at what is the next logical step and where can I go from there, and hopefully connecting with people who not only are enthusiastic and supportive but also believe in what you're trying to do. So trying to find good people to add into your support system, so finding that next logical step.
Yeah, and that's so crucial, finding people that will support you in what you're doing, of what interests you, even if it's that's not me, that's not something I'm interested in.
Right.
My wife, she does space planning for Joanne Fabric stores, and so she's on AutoCAD and all these things, and I'm like, I at a high level I know what you're doing, but when you're getting it, okay, the cameras go here, and from a construction process of being able to support and say, you're great at what you do, I don't know what that really is, but so please support me in what I'm doing, even if it takes time and, like you said, trial and error. And sometimes, getting back to your internship example, there might be times where you're not paid or paid as well, but there will become a time if you continue on what you believe in. Obviously, you have to be somewhat rational about, can't bankrupt your family and those things, but outside of that, or going on a trip in a war-torn country at the time, which that's it. So how did you start to incorporate meta into your practice in driving you to start your nonprofit organization?
Okay, so essentially what my nonprofit is it's mental health and wellness in the metaverse with DEI. So what I really looked at is I was like, okay, so open heart, open mind, and I'm really looking at, okay, what am I uniquely bringing to the situation? So this mental health and wellness background, this belief that people have what they need, believe that human connection is incredibly important, empathy, compassion. And regardless of how much I'm supporting technology, I genuinely believe you cannot innovate yourself out of an existential problem. Meaning, how big technology gets, we're gonna still need human beings to help human beings. So, and then I'm like, well, what problems are we having? So I'm like, okay, so I'm looking at my nieces and nephews, I'm looking at my friends' kids, I'm looking at my children. So remember, sometimes we are called to help, not from a completely altruistic component, but I have young kids. We all see the kids sitting there on their cell phones, sitting at the table. They're not talking, but they're all texting. We have all of these kinds of things that we're sort of seeing. If we would have known the impact that cyberbullying would have had on our children, how it would ravage our school systems and tear lives apart. If we could have gotten ahead of that, if we could have been proactive, if we could have embraced these cultural shifts with like a line on intervention, but also on growth and impact. So we could have been more proactive at kind of looking at those issues as that last iteration, the second iteration of the internet came out. We're seeing anxiety, depression, negative body image, FOMO, fear of missing out, which that started about like 10 years ago. I was in the counseling center at Kent State, and we'd have students come in, and they're like, I don't want to turn my phone off. So they weren't sleeping, they had anxiety about, and we have like this two-dimensional representation of what life is. So to disrupted sleep patterns, like all of these kinds of negative things that are coming out of technology. If we would have known, if we could have got ahead of it. But I also think there's extremely positive things. We have wildly destigmatized mental health concerns and illness and like made it a little bit more normal. People can find people that look like them regardless of where they're existing and operating within this world. And I think those are so important. We've brought like-minded people together. You are much more likely to be able to advocate for a specific group or concern because of the accessibility to others.
Wow. Yeah. And I think you just summarized, really that evolution, kind of digital media, some of the challenges that were there, are there, and working through that. I know with myself, I went back at my lowest to a flip phone because I was like, there's just so much going on, and it was, my mind was going in a million different directions, and I wasn't able to rein all that in. So I need to go back to the basics. And then there came a point where I was like, when you're texting, the one ABC, and it's like, okay, this is
you had to hit the button multiple times.
Multiple times. Like, okay, it's taking so much time.
Yeah.
And I think that's also interesting because human beings, we're not robots. We're not meant to be as efficient as a robot or a machine that's making a car or whatever it's making, and judging ourselves of like, wow, like I have this free time, so I can't have free time. I always got to be on the phone checking something, but not being super productive at, like, okay, what did you do for the last 3 hours? And like, well, I really don't know. Like I looked at, TikTok videos. I posted whatever those things are, and that's where I think kind of cutting through the technology and what do you want to do and what do you want to be and where do you see yourself of how can I harness this energy? Like with my anxiety, it's like, oh my gosh, anxious in all these different situations, and now I harness the anxiety and do pretty neat things, I think, and have this energy. And people are like, how do you find that energy? Like, do you drink coffee? And I don't drink coffee. And they're trying to just like find us. Like I'm just using the anxiety and the extra energy that I have, that I was going out and drinking and having not good behaviors. And it's like, well, can I use that to do things that are a little bit better? And again, like you said, look outward and not always like, well, me. There's different things, Maslow's hierarchy, different things that we need as human beings. But outside of that, let's look at like what our fellow human might need if we're able to. Not that we have to give money or help every single person, but when things align with, if you're able to and you have $1 or you have a sandwich or you have something, a gift card, and you're in a situation, it's like, okay, why is my pocket? I haven't been to this restaurant in like 6 months, or I don't know, I'm gonna go back. And just use those times of opportunity of doing good things, whatever those are. And it doesn't have to be money. Like you said, with self-care, it can be just small things. It can be getting out in nature, of not being on your phone for an hour, or whatever those things are. It doesn't always have to be tied to a dollar amount.
Right, and I think what you're describing to me is people's addiction to feeling productive.
Yeah.
They don't like those moments of silence because then they're actually kind of having to have that conversation with themselves. But on the other side of the coin, sometimes the best self-care is doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And like, so I think of this as this technology convinces us that we're not supposed to have stress because everything's so easy now. Stress is a part of life. It's never going to be completely without stress. So I think if we set this expectations, we're going to constantly be disappointed. So I think stress is a part of life. It's okay, but it's managing it and finding happiness regardless of whatever situation you're in.
Oh, absolutely. How can people find out about you, your organization, contribute, volunteer, all those good things?
So you find us at a very exciting time because we have so much going on. So we're really just getting our legs under us, getting started. Our website is up and running, metavoicefoundation.io. They can email metavoice@gmail.com to get a hold of me directly. Everything's on our website. They're more than welcome to kind of scope over it. We're really focused on education, outreach, and establishment of best practices. So really looking at the upcoming projects we have is we are working on developing an educational program for counselors and caregivers, parents, whoever want to take advantage of it. But again, I'm a counselor, so I'm just going to kind of lean into that. They're required to do 30 hours of continuing education, as all of the helping professions are. But counseling specific is nationally certified, so I am applying to be nationally certified to supply those continuing education to counselors, basically telling them what is the metaverse, what is VR, what are some things that you need to look at with gaming addiction. So I really think the things that we need to look out for as mental health professionals are emotional regulation, number one. So I mean, you're scrolling through TikTok, you feel mad, then you feel happy, then you feel sad, then you feel happy again, then you feel frustrated, and you're just scanning. I don't know if our emotional regulatory systems are meant to fire that rapidly and that quickly and that intensely. I think verbal and written communication is going to be on the decline. I think social skills are going to be on the slight decline. I think we're going to see an uptick in all kinds of addictions, not only drug and alcohol, but gaming, adult content, and gambling, just because it's so easy to access.
Wow.
So kind of looking at all these things that we need to be ready for, whether people buy into technology or not. And me personally, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. I just think it is. I'm the first person to go click, 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 and when something goes wrong technology-wise, but just being aware that this is going to impact our society, whether we support it or not. I mean, young people cannot even apply for a job without getting online. You used to have to walk in and talk to people and be like, hey, are you guys hiring? Can I get an application? Then you make that human connection. Right. We're operating within a world where people can basically not go outside and have everything delivered to them and everything that we need. And a lot of research is suggesting that ups depression but lowers anxiety. So if I can create a situation where my anxiety is lessened, I'm going to do that. But then I'm going to lose that human interaction, that kind of carabiner into the wall that promotes that mental health, is that those relationships.
Wow. So much.
Right?
What aren't we covering? What else are we missing, or do we cover?
I talk really fast. I know that, so I probably have covered a lot of everything I wanted to do, but I really think that there is this interesting and unique opportunity to reach these populations that we've previously been neglecting within the mental health field. Older populations, differently abled, and we're seeing a huge uptick in use of social media and VR in the Black and Latino population, which have a general mistrust because of being marginalized and oppressed within the mental health community. So we have this unique opportunity to break down some of those physical and systemic barriers that are existing within our field through the use of technology.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you.
Nice to meet you.
And want to thank you, our viewers, our listeners, our readers of the transcript, for joining us on this episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Again, we want to thank our special guest, Staci Hayes, for joining us today. And please be a voice for you or somebody you know. And we'll see you next time.